Well, shooters and reloaders out there, fortune cookie 45 LC coming to you from the hot lead zone. And this is chapter 6 of the video book on the Lee 358 200 grain round flat bullet. That's their new offering. And we're going to go ahead now and do chapter 6, reloading the new Lee bullet. Well, we have the powder coated and the 45, 45, 10 bullets ready to go. Now we need some load data, right? Well, load data for a 200 grain bullet is actually 208.5 grains. That's not easy to find. We have to go to old reloading manuals because the 200 grain bullet was popular way back when. So you see that one's 1978, and the loading manuals, the little guides are all of that time period. We have the Winchester, we have the Hercules, it's known as Alliance now, and then there's the Hodgdon. So there's the data we're going to be able to find right in those guides. So according to the Hodgdon reloading data manual from, I'll have to look that year up, whatever it is, it's an old manual, 5 grains of HS6 with a 200 grain bullet will do for a 38 special standard load. Since we have a 208.5 grain bullet, we might have pressures a little bit higher in the plus P range, but that's okay because we're shooting in 3.57 Magnum revolvers. The Lee die set, and there's the loading trays we're going to use. We're going to use Winchester primers. There they are on top, small pistol for standard loadings. Mixed wet tumbled brass, and that was the brass that was really grungy from one of my other videos. So we saved that brass by wet tumbling. So there's the Lee resizing die in the Lee press. We're going to go ahead and decap, reprime. And you see there, it's well reprimed. So we'll just repeat that 50 times. So my compliments to Lee. Notice that the press is smooth enough that the primer doesn't jump out of the primer arm. And the Lee bench plate that we have installed there is completely solid and very good the setup that we have here to reload with. Well, look at that. I just primed and sized the 97th case, and that's all the primers I had because the box was short 3, but I dumped out exactly 100 cases. So of course we're going to inspect each one of those to make sure we got a good primer in each one. So I'll be able to load 50 rounds of one load and 47 rounds of another if we want to go ahead and do that. They're ready to go. So there are our bullets, and for those of you out there who are thinking that I'm going to be pouring out exactly 50 bullets, well, no, that's more than 50. Can't tell you exactly how many more than 50, but that's more than 50. Now here's the thing. When you flare your case mouth, if you're doing a cast bullet that has a gas check design, the gas check actually has a inset on the base. So you actually have to put the first driving band to the flared case mouth and make sure that that first driving band actually goes into the flared portion. Otherwise, the inset for the gas check throws you off on that check. You'll see right here, this is what we want. This adjustment for our auto drum powder measure is perfectly set, and so we go ahead and tighten this nut down. We have the correct neck expansion mouth flare, and the powder measure activates when we put the case in. So we poured in our HS6 And one final check that it is HS6. Always good to do that. You don't want the wrong powder in there. 4.9, that's good. We don't want to overcharge, so we're going to stay with 4.9 and we'll go from there. There it is, 4.9. We got to stop talking at this powder scale. Once again, we do the visual inspection of every case. Now, I've already done it. This just shows you how it looks. They all have powder and no one has a double charge. And the very last case has 4.8, 4.9 grains of HS6. That's fine because, again, we're dealing with a 208.5 grain bullet, and the data was for a 200 grain bullet, so we're actually a heavier bullet than the 200 in the load data. The load data said 5 grains, we're loading 4.8, we're good to go. Here's the measure working. We'll just keep doing that until we got 50 of them done. So now I've gone ahead and set a bullet into the flared mouth case, and we'll run it into our seating die. Now I've already got it adjusted so that it puts the case mouth right at that little crimping groove that the bullet has in there. Now I checked this in a 38 special, and the problem is on some of my 38 specials the bullet just comes to the case mouth or to the cylinder. The length of the cylinder is just long enough for this to go into the chamber, but I don't like it that close. So when I'm going to load for 38, I'm going to go ahead and crimp it right over that little step there, and that'll give us a little bit more seating depth for 38 special revolvers. But this is fine in all my 357 Magnums. Now I prefer that actually because I'm going to shoot this and see how the pressure is. If the pressure is real good for 38, then I'll go ahead and seat them a little deeper for all my 38s. But if the pressure is a little bit on the hot side, then I'll keep it right there and we won't shoot these in 38 specials. And of course we'll crimp those as a separate procedure. So they're all seated. Now let's go ahead and seat the powder-coated ones. Powder-coated bullets all seated. Next step, crimping. Now adjusting the Lee factory crimp die is a breeze. All you do is back out the crimping stem and then set your die so that it contacts the shell holder. Then run your round in there, adjust the seating, the crimping stem rather, until you get the right amount of crimp, and then go ahead and run all your cases through there, crimp them all. The Lee factory crimp die has a carbide ring in there that irons out any irregularities that might interfere with the chambering of the rounds in your gun. Well, that's what they look like in the 686 Plus Pro Series. And here in the Taurus Model 66, and here in a Ruger Blackhawk. So it looks like the Super Police load lives. And there are those 45-10 bullets in the Smith & Wesson 686 Plus Pro Series. Now thanks to that Lee factory crimp die, every round you saw just dropped right in and dropped right out. We're ready for a range test. See you next video.